Here is the backstory that explains some of this. My dad dated Anna on and off from the time I was a teen. In their one extended off period, almost 2 years, she had a daughter and was pregnant with another daughter. They got back together while Anna was still pregnant and was back to their on and off relationship. For the most part, they lived together. The only exception was the off part when they were apart for almost 2 years. It was rough living there when they weren't together. They brought other people back, were generally just toxic and had a crappy relationship. I moved out of my dad's house and in with my grandparents when I was 17. It was a lot for me. I had never bonded or had any love for Anna or her girls while I lived with them. I was just trying to survive the upheaval my dad was putting me through. I don't even remember how old the girls were when I last saw them. Pretty small though. A few times Dad would tell me to be their big brother or whatever, but he was more wrapped up in Anna. They broke up a few months before he died 2 years ago. He and I weren't really talking in the last year of his life. So Anna has been diagnosed with some disease and reached out to my grandparents to raise her girls. She has nobody, doesn't know the bio fathers of the girls, doesn't have any family she's in touch with. She was deep in drugs and alcohol for years, and they disowned her over it and were not interested in hearing from her again, and no friends left. My grandparents said no because they had nothing to do with the girls and hadn't considered them their granddaughters. To be honest, even before Dad died, I was the only person they had a relationship with in his house. They didn't see Dad anymore because of how he was. Next up was me. She tracked me down on social media and told me she needed to talk about something important. She explained to me that she was sick and I could see it in the way she was walking and talking, and she knew the girls were too young to survive when she got worse, and she wanted better for them. She said after years of being their brother and of living with them, she wanted me to take her girls and raise them and let them visit her, but once she's gone, to be the family they don't have otherwise. I was shocked and even a little angry if I'm honest, because Anna was asking for something huge for me for people who were essentially strangers. We were never a family, but she acted as if we had been at some point. She saw how I was reacting and said my dad would have wanted me to do this and to think about how I lost my mom and dad and how I should consider her girls. It made me so angry I told her I didn't want her kids and I walked away. She asked me how I could do this to her girls and called me an idiot. She told me that when they bounced around in foster care, I would only have myself to blame. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I feel for these poor girls, but that doesn't make them your responsibility. She dug that hole and alienated herself and her kids from the rest of the family. Not you. If this situation is a criticism of anyone, it's society in general, not you, and of course Anna. She's not wrong to ask, but she is way out of line, guilting you about your dad and calling you names. The moment someone starts calling names and starts shaming you is the moment I'm out. Not okay. It also does not make you go, oh, I am so wrong, let me do what you want. I just don't get it. It only works as a guilt and manipulation tactic. I'm sorry this is happening. OP, the girls are not family. Therefore, Anna needs to make other arrangements. Hard disagree. If this situation is a criticism of anyone, it's society in general. Are you serious? A woman sleeps around and ends up with multiple children whose father she doesn't know. Life happens. A woman gets sick and dies. Yet this woman's irresponsible behavior is somehow our, i.e. society's, fault? Good grief. She's very wrong to ask. She was never family to OP and now wants something from him because she's burned every bridge. It's awful for those two girls, but reaching out to someone when you contributed to their dysfunctional childhood because you want something of them is absolutely an idiot move. One suggestion for the mother is that if she wants to keep her girls out of foster care, is to contact an adoption agency and start that process. Hopefully she'll be able to meet any prospective parents and be allowed to determine who will raise her girls. She would then rest easier knowing her girls are in a good home. My wife's sister Alice, 29, is currently 5 months pregnant. She and her boyfriend, the baby's father, have hit a rough patch, and Alice came to stay with us. She's been living with us for about 6 weeks now. Her job allows her to work from home, so she spends all her time at our house. Both my wife and I work outside of the home, so Alice is at home alone. For the most part, she's a good house guest. She's not overly messy and is most pleasant to be around. But pregnancy is weird. I understand hormones are a thing. Alice will have mood swings and gets emotional really easily. She also gets cravings, which have fallen on me to solve for some reason. My wife has sent me out of the house at all hours of the day to get something for Alice, or send me on errands after work to pick up something specifically for Alice. When I protest to my wife, she says that Alice is going through an incredibly hard time and we need to be supportive of her. I blew up at my wife when she sent me out to get Alice some fast food at 1 a.m. this past Saturday. I told my wife she should go, but she said she had to get up early for an appointment the next day. I ended up going, but told my wife that I was done with this because I'm not an errand boy, nor am I the father of Alice's kid. The next day it was just Alice and me at our house while my wife was out running errands. I made myself a sandwich for lunch, and when Alice saw it, she said it looked really good and asked if I could make one for her too. I told her the ingredients were still on the counter so she could make one herself. She said she was feeling lightheaded and needed to sit down, but that some food would help her. I tried to tell her no, but she started getting emotional and saying how hard pregnancy is when you don't have a partner. So I said fine and went to make her a sandwich. But then she told me that I would have to heat the lunch meat up because her doctor told her not to have lunch meat unless it's heated up first. At this point, I told her that I was not her baby's daddy, nor was I her servant. I told her I tried to be supportive and helpful, but that I was done playing her partner's role. I told her that, out of courtesy, I've given her privacy regarding her relationship issues, but she's going to need to figure out a plan soon because this current situation isn't working for me anymore. Alice started crying and I ended up leaving to give myself a chance to cool down. My wife was waiting for me when I got home and immediately laid into me. She told me I was a huge idiot for not just making Alice a sandwich and an even bigger idiot for threatening to kick her out. She said that I should have known better than to bring up her relationship and that it was a huge jerk move. My wife has always said that this would be temporary while Alice figures her stuff out. Still, the further Alice's pregnancy goes, the less progress I see toward a solution. Not the idiot, this isn't about a sandwich. It's about your wife pressuring you into making you into sister-in-law's servant. I would ask if there's anywhere else for sister-in-law to go. 6 weeks is a long time and yeah, she should be making long-term plans. However, if she really can't leave, you need to talk to your wife about boundaries. Alice is an adult and she can make her own sandwich or get her own food at 1 a.m. I'm also curious as to why his spouse isn't the one bending over backward for Alice, even though it's her saying that they need to be supportive of her. Why doesn't the wife go at 1 a.m. to pick up food for Alice or go to the grocery store to satisfy Alice's cravings? It's her sister who's pregnant, not the OP's. The further Alice's pregnancy goes, the less progress I see toward a solution. You know that kid will be growing up in your home, right? Because Alice is having a tough time raising a 1-year-old by herself. Put your foot down. Your wife will do all errands from now on. Ask your wife when Alice is moving out and what the plan is. Should you start decorating a room for the kid? In all honesty, asking about decorating the baby's room isn't a bad idea. If your wife even thinks about it for 1 second, you've already got your answer in regards to what's really going on and what they have planned. Who knows, maybe OP's wife will try to convince OP to put his name on the birth certificate. LOL. I, 29 male, have a sister, 32, and she has 3 kids, female tween, male pre-tween, female preschooler, and I often look after them for her. I've been doing that since the second one was born, as it became too much for her to handle. She's a single mother by choice. I don't mind, her kids are great, and she lets me use her card to cover any expenses for the kids, and I'm allowed to use it myself when I'm out with them. A few months ago, she had a work emergency and needed me to look after the kids for the night. I told her that I had my partner, 26 male, over, and we were kinda having a date night. She reiterated that it was an emergency, so I agreed. Like always, the kids were great and my partner is great with kids. They had fun with him and he was able to get them to bed quicker than I would normally. This has happened a few more times. My partner has been around and she needs me to take the kids so we look after them together. And a few times when he knew I had the kids, he dropped by to say hi to them, but to also give me a break, generally about lunchtime and making food for all of us. She knows that my partner has stayed with me during those emergencies and that he stopped by a few times and she hadn't said anything. So today we went for lunch and ran into my partner. I wasn't going to invite him, but the kids begged him to join us, so he did. We had a nice time and I paid for everyone on my sister's card like I normally do, out of habit really. However, I realised it also meant I paid for my partner's meal. I texted my sister before we left the restaurant and said that if she wanted, I'd reimburse her the amount. I also sent a picture of the receipt. When she picked up the kids, I brought it up since I never got a text back, and she said we would talk after she got the kids in the car. So she gets them in and comes back and goes off on me for having a stranger around her kids, and that I should have asked her before bringing him around them. She said she let the first emergency slide, but that she found it weird that each time he would stay and that he would come round. If I'm being honest, I got upset at this and told her not to talk about my partner like that. This just led to more arguing, and in the end I told her that I won't be looking after her kids anymore and she needed to get a babysitter or start being an actual mother. After that she left, and now I feel awful. I said what I said out of anger, and I can tell it really hurt her. Plus, it would cost her so much to find someone else to take the kids as much as I do. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I've caught flack for saying this elsewhere, but some modern parents are very entitled concerning free, cheap babysitting and getting time off from their kids. I know you love them, but you allowed yourself to be taken advantage of. She chose to have kids that she can't take care of, so she should live with it, not you. Yep. She lost her right to be angry about him after she chose not to speak to you about her concerns the first time. I guess it's a burned bridge on her end now because it's going to be a lot more expensive for her to find a babysitter for 3 kids, especially last-minute emergencies, than it was for her to just cover your food and incidentals when they were with you. I'm 21, my friend is 20. We've been friends for 10 years. Our families are very close. However, she tends to fall in love with every guy she dates and tends to become toxic. She'll date any guy who gives her attention. Her relationships often don't last very long, with her being far more into the relationship than the guy. She ended up meeting this guy online like 5 months ago. He lives like 3 hours away. He's 27, lives with his mom and is a loser. She drives to see him every couple of weeks. We were hanging out last week and she mentioned that she'd gotten her period. I said, that sucks, and she said, you have no idea. Boyfriend and I are trying to have a baby. I was like, what? She goes into this elaborate fantasy about how they're going to live with his mom to save money to buy a house while she's pregnant, and they're going to get married, and how bad his mom wants grandkids. I went over the million reasons this is a horrible idea with her, and she had a reply for everything and didn't want to hear it. Now, she also lives at home and it's her mom's car that she drives to see him. So I ended up telling her mom. She and her mom got into it, and her mom took her car away. I didn't want to tell on her, but I also couldn't just let her do it. Am I the idiot? Edit, she has BPD. Not the idiot. To decide to have a kid under those circumstances is frankly insane. And given that she doesn't live on her own and doesn't support herself, her reckless decision would have affected more people than just her. Bringing in her mom was the right choice. This was above your pay grade as a friend, and another trusted person was needed to help your friend see sense. Really sus of the boyfriend's role in convincing her this is a good idea, and why is his mom so invested in her stay-at-home son to have a kid of his own? This didn't just come from her mental illness. OP, she doesn't have the resources or the maturity to be a mother, and as you've stated, he doesn't sound like a good parent either. Honestly, her feelings are not important here. You've done a great thing, and hopefully prevented her from ruining someone's life. I went through a similar situation with my friend when her ex had previously cheated on her, and she was trying to have a child with him. Children need consistency in their lives, and it sounds like they haven't been dating long enough to know whether or not they're committed to being parents. You made the right call, and the mother made the right call. Also, I guess she doesn't own a car if her mother takes it away. Maybe she should be saving up for her own car rather than a child. So my husband and I are expecting a little girl in a month, and we're both delighted. However, we've had some trouble when talking about what to name our child. We had a lot of trouble finding good names that we both like, so we've gotten help from my family and my in-laws. However, I tried excluding my mother-in-law, who's named Linda. I wanted to exclude her because she is extremely Catholic, so she has some very extreme beliefs and opinions. She had harassed a friend of mine, and the friend didn't leave her house for days after. She has a pretty long history of pushing her beliefs onto the rest of us. I was talking to my family, and then the perfect name came up, Jaden. I'd also received a text from my husband saying he was daydreaming at work when he found the perfect name. I was happy we'd both found potential names and hoped we would agree on one of them. We sat on the couch and I told him I was thinking of naming the baby Jaden. He immediately shot it down, so I asked what name he wanted for the baby. He told me he wanted to name the baby Linda after his mom. I was fuming internally. I tried reminding him about what his mom had done to my friend and other family members. He responded with, "She's Christian, it's just part of her religion. You can't shame her for believing in God." I just wasn't having it. I'm currently eating leftover soup in the upstairs bedroom as I need time to process this. However, I do feel like I'm the idiot because it is just her religious beliefs. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You're not shaming her for believing, you're shaming her for the way she treats others who don't. Don't cave. Don't name your baby after a bigot. Both parents need to agree on a name. Fair if he doesn't want Jaden, also fair if you don't want Linda. So both are struck off the list. Now you need to find a name you both like. Just split it. Layden. OP, talk to your husband. Let him know that you both need to like the name so Linda is off the table. You will never, ever call your child that. And stop involving the family in naming this kid. Text them and tell them you and your partner have decided to choose a name on your own. You won't be announcing it until after the baby is born. Don't bring drama into your life.